Okay. Okay. Hey, everyone. It is October 8th at 7:05 p.m. And this is the ANC 1B Transportation Parks and Public Space Committee. For our October meeting, we currently do not have a quorum. So I see someone's hand is raised in the audience. Oh, Karen is here. Let me elevate Karen to panelist. It still doesn't give us a quorum, I think. Google what quorum is. Hey, Karen.
Hey, members.
Hi, good evening. I'm sorry. I just was using my phone today.
No problem.
Quorum is half.
Is half or more than half? Oh, Nicole's here. Great. We're good. Okay.
Sorry was I the last for a quorum?
Yes, I was debating whether half or more than half was a quorum and delaying, just repeating myself, trying to get to a quorum. Okay, great. So we do have a quorum now, so I will call the roll if I can find what happened to my agenda. Okay, cool. Okay, great. Julius?
Here.
Dion is not here. Zoe?
Present.
David?
Here.
Matthew is not here. Johnny?
Present.
Karen?
Present.
Great. Guneev?
Present.
Excellent. Nicole?
I'm here.
Great. And then Laura said she would be out. Jay?
Hello.
Great. Rebecca is not here. Ben?
Hi.
Excellent. And then Nick also said he would be out. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Present out of 14. Okay, and before I introduce the agenda and move to adopt the agenda, I just want to make an announcement to everyone. I was telling people kind of before we started the meeting, but unfortunately Santiago has resigned from the committee because he's moving to New York. So exciting for him, sad for us. He said he would still check in on us. I told him that was silly, but it's nice if he does. So he put in a lot of hard work as a commissioner, as the chair of this committee, and then as a member of the committee this year. So sad to see him go, but appreciative of all his hard work. Okay, great. I'm going to share my screen, and we have a lighter agenda tonight, maybe to make up for our heavy agenda we had last month. Just 2 items tonight, and of course, if there's other business items, please feel free to bring them up. But tonight, we will be discussing a draft resolution supporting the Recycling, Refund, and Litter Reduction Amendment Act. And then I thought we could continue our discussion from last month on equitable disability parking rights. We had a pretty good discussion last month on a draft resolution, wanted to continue the discussion this month. So I thought we could round out the meeting with that. So I would like to move to adopt the agenda.
Seconded.
I second.
I think, Guneev, did you say second first? I think so.
Sure.
Okay, so all those in favor of the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Great. Okay. So our first item is at first, so this is you might have heard in the news, or if you're a council watcher, that there's been a bottle bill, is what they're calling it, introduced by Councilmember Nadeau, our Ward 1 council member, that would basically charge, would require like a 10-cent deposit and like refund mechanism for bottles and cans, similar to like some other states have, like Maine or California, in an effort to, reduce litter and specifically keep cans and bottles out of the rivers. So this resolution was written by Chair of the Commission, Trindade Duramo. And it's a little bit, we don't really have like a department, we don't really have an environmental committee. This is the closest one, so I think that's why it ended up with us, but happy to discuss it and offer our recommendation to the commission. The meeting schedule this month was a kind of weird. Normally they would have met last week and we would have met this week, but this week, because of Yom Kippur, we're meeting today, and then immediately tomorrow we have the ANC meeting. So we potentially could recommend this for tomorrow's meeting. So I'm going to share my screen again and just kind of like go through the resolution. Okay. So officially supporting the Recycling Refund and Litter Reduction Amendment Act.
A little bit.
Zoom in.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
So a bunch of whereas clauses, talking about, why litter is bad, plastic litter in particular, some background on the Anacostia Watershed Society, and its trash problem in particular, and efforts from the city to clean up the Anacostia River, which would also, help with the Potomac River, as the Anacostia is a tributary. And some information showing that specifically beverage containers are approximately 50% of all litter that's found when they've done like surveys and cleanups. So this potentially, if effective, could have a big significant impact on the overall amount of litter getting into the river. Talking about this bill or this amendment act in particular, being introduced earlier this year by Councilmember Nadeau, and co-sponsored by the majority of the council. And they recently had a hearing on it, which is why, maybe last week, which is why the ANC or Chair Duramo thought it would be good for us to weigh in. And then the resolved clauses are, the commission endorses the Recycling Refund and Litter Reduction Amendment Act of 2025 and recommends that the council's committees on business and economic development and transportation and the environment mark up and support the legislation without delay. Further resolved, the commission applauds the bill's foresight in increasing the deposits over time if redemption targets are not met, providing a mechanism for the monetary incentive to keep pace with the cost of living, and for avoiding the gradually declining participation rates that other states have experienced. And further resolved that the commission urges the district government to support and sustain an adequate return infrastructure, including sufficient density of return locations, and to give special consideration to residents with limited mobility, those who do not live in central areas of the district, and those who might face other disproportionate barriers to participate in the refund program. I think, at least when I've read about it or heard about it, they've talked about setting up kind of like vending machines in grocery stores or other places like that that would be throughout the city. So theoretically, and hopefully it would be easy for people to return the beverage cans and bottles. So that's the resolution. Happy to hear, we don't have anyone presenting on this or anything. Happy to hear anyone's thoughts. Karen, go ahead.
Well, I had the privilege of actually having a very lengthy discussion with the council member on this bill. And so I do know that the way that businesses will benefit, they will be paid via the distributor. They'll be given their that's how they'll be getting their benefits. I don't know if that's included in the information that you had shown, because there was some concern that I initially had when I had asked her the question as to how would the businesses receive their funding and any type of discounts, and how would it be a benefit to the community. So the distributor, I don't know why that's not coming out tonight. They will be receiving, they will be funding the business owners with a certain amount of, I'm not sure the exact amount they'll get per bottle. They'll do that. I think they'll do that prior to people returning their bottles in, so that that will give them some incentive to receive the collections. And I don't know if they're going to do like they do with the banks, like they do those Coinstar machines where you turn in the but for I'm still curious. I know that their pickup is going to be done by the whomever drops off the sodas and whatever the bottles are, that they're supposed to be receiving those actual items. I'm just concerned about the collection of the bottles, and how are they going to crush them? What are they going to do? You know, because we don't want any rat issues. We already have rat issues. We want to make sure that the businesses are able to maintain a certain amount of cleanliness, and that we don't have end up with a collection, a stockpile of bottles located and near those various businesses. I just want to see how that program is going to work, and if that can be something that we can add in as to our awareness clause to ensure that we have a, a good maintenance process in regards to how the bottles are collected, where the locations are going to be, where they're collecting at for each one of the businesses. So they're just not thrown in places, or if someone doesn't pick them up, that
Yeah.
whole process is done properly. So that's my main concern, because you know um, we want clean streets based off of public safety. So I just really want to make sure that everything stays nice and clean, and we're environmentally friendly, since we're talking about the environment. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think the last resolve clause gets close to it, but not exactly. So support and sustain adequate return infrastructure, sufficient density of the return locations, and like access to people who live throughout the city and who have different barriers to maybe participating. But it doesn't really, we could add another resolve clause potentially that gets more at like ensure orderly collection and addresses
The
sanitary
sanitation, right.
concerns or something like that.
Right. So that it's not leaving any insanitary conditions, and that the collection locations, that because it obviously is going to be the responsibility of the establishment owners to collect these items, but we
Mhm.
need to make sure that they have proper containers to collect, and for drop-offs and collections.
Management,
Because you understand, once they put out the item, they're not going to have the storage or the shelving, unless it's something that's specifically allotted for that, in order to receive an influx of bottles and cans and etc.
yeah, I don't know how to spell efficient. Is that efficient?
That's correct.
Program supports sanitary collection and efficient management of waste material. I don't know. We can workshop something, but I think that's a good one to add. be it further resolved that the program supports sanitary collection and efficient management of waste material
Could we even just say returned materials or
yeah,
returned bottles?
returned, yeah. Returned bottles and cans. Okay, how is that? I'll figure out how to spell efficient and then
EFFI.
and then is this Karen? Does this get at what you were hoping for?
Yes, I believe so. My main concern is that we did not have we have places to bring it in, but we didn't we want to make sure that it actually leaves 1B when it comes in.
Right. Okay.
Thank you.
So Jean, I see your hand up, but did somebody else have their hand up as a commissioner, or we can go to Jean? Okay, let's go to Jean.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Thanks for joining.
Okay, so this is a pretty complicated bill. As a resident, I look at it and I go, well, there's a few tweaks that need to be made, but this is a no-brainer. We need to recycle. No problem. But as a business, it's going to be another incredible challenge. And I do want to note here that I testified before the council about the bill and would be happy to read my testimony. But I also want to note that Nina Albert, while testifying that, you know, the mayor supports recycling and we want to be able to support this bill, there is a lot to be worked out. Now, what Karen said about the distributors is the distributors are going to be responsible for the returns, figuring out how bottles are returned from us, restaurants, nightclubs, etc., to a distribution center or whatever is going to be created, because it's all still up in the air. But the distributors will not be paying us anything. In fact, as they are common to do, they will add it to the bill. If they don't do it by increasing the money on the product, they will add it to on the invoice as a line item. They do it with we now have green charges on our deliveries. We have I don't know, 3 or 4 line items that are just about charges for delivering. Delivery charge, you know, that's $5, $10, whatever. So we will end up paying for it, but I do want you all to understand there's an outlay cost here of 10 cents on every single bottle. Now, I asked our financial controller what that would mean for us, a very large company. And while she can't begin to know, we only have keg returns as an example. She is estimating that's going to be 3%. So that means 3% of what we spend on product is money we never, ever can ever use. It's just in that recycling. The same thing happens with kegs. It's $30 on each keg because they're worth money. So everybody has to make sure that they return their kegs because it's money. So there's an outlay cost that literally some businesses aren't going to be able to absorb. I was talking to Eric Heidenberger, and he told me to share this with you all, to please share this. He owns 801, and he owns Shaw's Tavern, a real favorite in the community. And they also, he's a family business company, and they own a few others, Mad Hatters and whatnot around the city. And he just said he's exhausted. I mean, since the pandemic, businesses are just exhausted. Now, my understanding, this doesn't go into effect until 28. That's a little over 2 years to figure it all out, right? And believe me, there is a lot to figure out. And if you watch the council hearing, which is about 10 hours, you will see that both McDuffie and Nadeau acknowledge how much there is to be worked out. They acknowledge it. I'm at the table. I'm ready to work with them. I'm really happy and proud to come from a company that has been in the forefront of trying to be sustainable in business. Years and years ago, we worked with our distributor to find compostable cups when nobody else was doing that. Now, if you've been to the venue, any of our venues, you know we use our cups, which is not just an added expense, it is a storage issue. And so you get a cup and you use that cup throughout the night, and then you return it at the end of the night into a bin. All those cups go to a center where they're washed and returned. And so the same cup gets used many, 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 many times instead of just getting thrown in the trash, like a solo cup when you go somewhere else. We've been actually composting for years and years and years. So I don't want to keep going on about, in fact, we got rid of plastic use bottles, single-use bottles, plastic bottles. I mean, my company is really trying, but what this means, and just, to try to wrap up here, let's say Anthem, I normally will bring in 200 cases of Miller Lite, just as an example, not to give Miller any kudos or anything. 200 cases of Miller Lite. Well, now I can't bring in 200 cases. I can only bring in 100 cases. It's not that I don't need 200 cases, but I have 100 cases of empty bottles waiting to be picked up. It's space. I mean, it's just, there's a finite footprint. So that means an added economic impact, labor, more deliveries, etc. But more importantly, an environmental impact. Those are semi trucks delivering those cases of Miller Lite. That's another delivery on the road. So we want to support this bill. I don't know a single business owner that doesn't want to support this bill. But there's a lot of infrastructure that has to happen. And Miguel didn't talk to any of the businesses before he wrote it. I want to work with everybody. We want to solve this problem. None of us want in theory, we pay for our trash companies. We use clear plastic trash bags so they can see the bottles, they can see the recycling, they can see it. And in theory, we pay for all of our bottles and plastics and everything to be recycled. And we all know, I think we can all assume that recycling doesn't happen as we are told it does. So I'm going to stop talking because I've talked a lot, but I'm happy to answer any questions. And I just want this committee to understand that, hey, all of us are like, we want to support this.
Yeah.
We just need some more.
So Jean, in our resolution, we, as written, basically just supports the bill. There's really only the two resolve clauses at the end, the one that was already in there, urges that there's enough infrastructure so people can actually return the bottles and participate. And then we just added the one about like making sure collection is sanitary and efficient. From your perspective, like what's the number, like if we were to support the resolution and send it to the commission tomorrow for the commission to vote on, what would you like to see in there? That because an ANC supporting something
Right.
like this is like it's an opportunity to send a letter with what we think. So like
Right.
if like how would you like to influence the bill? Maybe we could like think of it that way.
Because I don't know, none of us know, maybe just a carve out, a resolution that says with the caveat that the business community is consulted in figuring out the infrastructure I don't know if these are the best words.
Okay.
And maybe to not have the ANC vote on it tomorrow, to let it marinate a little bit until the next month. I don't think the council needs the resolution right away. I could be wrong. The testimony was last week.
Right. Yeah, I
So
think
I leave that up to you. I don't know. But a carve out, a caveat to please, yeah. Like Eric said, I'm worried about our small businesses, you guys. I just really am, and if there is anybody on the call that could also speak to it, that'd be great. But
okay, I'm writing some language right now, and I would like I'm gonna call on you guys in a second, but I'm gonna write this language, then kind of present it to everyone and see how people feel. I think maybe Jean, you will like it, but we'll see. Closely with business community, especially.
Jean, I got a question. The information that I was saying was to basically sort of help with the businesses in regards to the infrastructure, knowing that most businesses are the quarters are so close, they really would not be able to have that additional inventory. I don't know of any additional ways in which we could have a collection process because, like you said, you'll be inundated with the products sold and then also the input of whatever additional products that will be coming back into the business. And from what I had spoke directly to Councilmember Nadeau herself, there was supposed to be a way in which the businesses, because this was my specific ask, how would this really truly benefit the business? Because it has to be some incentive. And she told me that there was supposed to be a significant incentive for the business. So apparently it wasn't in writing because she told me. So I think that it's important that we have that information, some clarity on that. But I really think that it needs to be something where the brunt of all of that extra inventory is not still in the inside of the business, but at a location where the businesses can some type of central location where all this stuff can be collected, but it has to be consistently collected. But because we always have a problem where people are not collecting items that they claim they're going to collect until they feel like it, and then we're left with a mess.
one
That
of the
was,
main. I'm sorry. I
go
thought you were
ahead.
done.
No,
Well,
I'm finished. I'm concluding there.
Well,
Thank you.
no, I've talked to Councilmember Nadeau too, and there is nothing in the legislation about that. The thing they do is make it so that the bars and restaurants aren't redemption centers. Like you aren't bringing your bottles there. Like let's use Greek Spot as an example. They sell off premise, right? You go and you get your chicken Slovaki sandwich and you get a Budweiser at the same time. Now you're not going to take that Budweiser bottle back there. That they don't become a redemption center. But so that's the kind of plus, I guess, for the bars and the ABC establishments, and I know it was one of the concerns for the off premise, like your liquor stores and stuff, and I don't think they have to either, although some of them want to be because they are responsible for that 10 cents. When the distributor sells me a case of Budweiser or Miller Lite or whatever it is, I have to pay $2.40 on it every case. And I get that $2.40 back when I return it. So there was one individual who was testifying that owns a liquor store who says he wants to be a redemption center. Otherwise, he's losing 10 cents on every bottle that walks out of his store. So there's a lot to think. I mean, for these guys, your corner stores who make like literally maybe $30,000 to $40,000 a year profit. it's hard to have that kind of an outlay of cash, especially when that's what they do mostly is sell bottled stuff, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
so, yeah, I want to get to Johnny and Jay.
Okay, sorry.
But also, let's think about, we don't have to respond immediately. I'm going to read this and then I'll go to Johnny, but like maybe a line like this kind of gets at the concern. So be it further resolved that ANC 1B urges the DC Council and implementing agencies work closely with the business community, especially the bar and restaurant community, to minimize negative impacts to service and operations. It kind of, I think, hits on what you're talking about, Chief.
Yes,
But Johnny, let's go to you.
thank you.
I hear you, Gene. I mean, maybe we could do a partial exemption until we figure it out for small businesses or on-site consumption businesses like nightclubs or restaurants. I know that it's a big burden on small businesses. Or we could offer other solutions. I'm just thinking out loud. So please grimace on mute if I'm saying something that you disagree with. Would bulk redemption help or pickup services help you? That way you
Well,
don't
that's probably what it would be. I don't know what's going to happen. I think they're trying to do. So instead of like, okay, let me explain how kegs work because it's pretty much what we're talking about. I 930 Club has 36 tap lines, and I was super proud when I was bar manager of curating that. And so that's a lot of kegs of beer and consider the backups and everything. And so that's $30 on each actual physical keg. And so I order, let's say from Budweiser, I ordered 3 Bud Lights and 3 of their craft beers, so 6 kegs. And when they deliver that, they are picking up the empties. And literally so all of that happens at the same time in one delivery. Now, RNDC, who testified at the committee at the hearing, said that they can't do that. I don't know. The onus is put on the distributors who are going to wrap their brains around this to do it as cost effectively as they possibly can. There may be 1 redemption center or 5 redemption centers around the city for the bars and restaurants, what we'll just call ABC licenses, ABC and D licenses, which would be liquor stores as well as on and off premise. And so that would be another pickup, a separate pickup. So that I'd get my Budweiser delivery of 30 Budweiser cases. And then later in the day, maybe the guy comes and picks up the empties. So we don't know. All of that has to be figured out. I'm here to play in the sandbox with these guys because it's going to be the distributors working with the council that are going to figure out the nitty gritty of this stuff. But the distributors will obviously think about what works for them. And I mean, literally, they tell some people what day their delivery day is, you guys. I mean, like if you're 930 Club, I kind of have more power, but not always. These distributors have to figure out deliveries and where they're going and all this stuff. And one thing that we haven't talked about, we're spoiled in DC. It's incredible that we have the import system we do. I can procure any bottle of liquor that you want from almost anywhere in the world. We're really concerned that it's called the import system, is going to be impacted by this. And what'll happen is instead of having, at 930, I had 60 different products for you to choose from. Very unusual in a live music venue. Usually a beer company sponsors it. You only have their products. You might have 12 choices. I'm worried about choices and things. It'll be easier for me to just get my deliveries from fewer companies, get fewer types of products, just to minimize all this insanity. Does that make sense?
Yep. So Jay, I'm gonna go to you.
Yeah, so I think sort of partially to address hopefully Gene's concern, as I admit I haven't read the full bill and it's nearly 30 pages. But I did find where restaurants and bars providing on-premise consumption, like nightclubs, are specifically exempted from needing to charge or collect deposits or pay them out. As Ben said in the chat, if the bottles don't leave the building, they don't wind up in the Anacostia. It's not it's basically it's not a problem. So I think for other places, like the Greek spot, or other places that sell you know bottles for people to take home, that's obviously that's a different issue. You know, I uh I grew up in Southeast Michigan. Michigan has a 10-cent deposit law. It has had it for over 50 years. Um, I would, I suspect that the council member who also grew up in Southeast Michigan has also some experience with the way the bottle deposits work in Michigan and has used that as part of a basis for crafting this program. But I would certainly encourage, uh, both council and the community, as much as possible to, talk with communities that have had deposit programs and figure out like what are the ways that they've worked and what are the ways that we could do things better. I think that the issue where small stores, I'm thinking in particular of the one up on 11th Street at Harvard Street, which is a tiny little corner store. uh I admit I have no idea if they were to have to take and keep returned bottles, where they would put them. So I think that is certainly a question that uh, needs to be worked out. But I will say that, in Michigan, where and when I grew up, there's a lot less bottle and other trash, recyclable trash in the parks, in the grass, in the rivers, than you see around here. So, as a, you know, I agree that there are some details that probably need to be worked out, but overall, I am very much in favor of DC creating a deposit program, so that we can get people to return bottles and not have them, just dumped in the trash and on the street and in the rivers.
Thanks, Shay. Johnny, do you have your hand up again, or is that left over from before? Okay, great. Cool. Any other thoughts from people? How are we feeling about the resolution? Is there anything we should add? Do we want to vote on it? To send a recommendation to the commission tomorrow? How do people feel?
Do you think it's the last clause we added is explicit enough?
I'll read it again. So, be it further resolved that ANC 1B urges that the DC Council and implementing agencies, and I said that just because I don't know who's implementing it, work closely with the business community, especially the bar and restaurant community, to minimize negative impacts to service and operations. So it's a little broad, but I don't know. I think ANC resolutions can be broad. I don't run a business, so I don't know, the specific operation and service impacts, other than what Jean has shared with us. So if anyone has suggestions to make it stronger or additional whereas clauses, I think I'm open to it.
Maybe we could suggest specifically like further outreach to small footprint businesses.
Okay.
Because again, I certainly, am cognizant of the space requirement, especially for places that, may not have terribly frequent deliveries and pickups. So, if you're only getting deliveries, a few times a week, there's, it's not only the sanitation issue that Karen mentioned, but it's also just the space issue of where are you going to put them all. And, making sure that we're working to figure out how they're going to, do that.
Yeah.
Or are we going to, make it possible for them to, take returns another way? I know a lot of stores in Michigan have, automated machines that, you feed the bottle in, and especially for plastics, they get crushed and they go into the, this basically a case in the bottom of the machine, and it could be in theory outside the building. But again, there's the rat and other sanitation issues with that as well. So
Hey,
I think-
Matthew, I think Bill Spieler has his hand up.
Can,
Who has it?
Bill Spieler, do you see him?
I don't see, is he, oh, so both of you on my screen are Gene. So I thought you just were here twice.
Uh-oh.
So you're saying the second Gene is Bill?
Yeah, yeah, he's masquerading.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for
Sorry.
letting me know.
Sorry about that.
Second Gene, welcome to the party.
I think what happened is I signed up. I apologize. My name is Bill Spieler, and I own the DC9 nightclub.
Okay.
Probably what happened is I had signed up, and somehow I got like 4 Zoom links, and probably an additional one was Jean passed it over to me, her link. So that's probably why it's showing up as the second Jean.
Thanks for being here. I was confused.
Sure. My take on the bottle bill, and you're definitely, to me, heading in the right direction. Trying to figure these things out as far as the business community is definitely something that needs a lot more looking into. I would agree with the space issue. I probably get about 80 cases a week, which is a little bit under 1,800 bottles and cans. And then because there's such a high requirement of delivery to get a delivery company to come to your business, I can only get a delivery once a week. I just don't do the volume that you need to have an extra delivery or a third delivery. So I only get once a week. Storage is a problem. How I'm going to get credit for cans, and are the bottles going to be heavier? Like I've definitely been to places that do recycling or returns, and the bottles are much heavier, just so they can last longer. My fear is I've got bottles that are very flimsy and they break pretty easily. So if it's true that the restaurants and nightclubs are carved out, I don't want to say that's great, but I would love to make this happen. I just don't know how on our end it would work out well. And I certainly would be appreciative if the council really wants to talk to the businesses and get our take on how to make things work well, you know?
And and the other Gene would like to add one thing here too. Already, like we're assuming that our garbage collection companies are recycling. Where are they in this conversation? Because in theory, they're picking up every single bottle from 930 or Anthem or Lincoln or wherever. And where's it going? And why isn't it being recycled? And we understand there's all these, that we, being us, the consumer who hear things through the news or whatever, that only a certain percentage of the recycling is being recycled. Well, where are they at the table? What about a clause bringing them to the table? Because they're a part of the solution. Or do we just not have to have our garbage collected anymore because we're composting, we're recycling where's the garbage? You know?
Yeah.
I'm being facetious, of course, you guys, but thank you so much for hearing us out. This is a very, very serious issue. Obviously, this is our environment, and I'm much older than you guys, but I want you to have a clean and safe future. I really mean that. I worry, I'm concerned. So this is so important, this issue. And so I don't see the harm in taking more time to marinate a really awesome resolution around it. Not that this isn't, but I don't if there's no rush in voting on it tomorrow, let's continue marinating on it as we learn more about the bill.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
all. That's all.
Bill, besides the business community outreach, do you have any last thoughts for an addition, or
That was pretty much it.
okay, great.
Could I mention one thing?
Yes.
When I'm thinking of small businesses, we don't have to keep talking about this. I know there are other things to discuss, but I'm thinking about all the restaurant closures in DC. Margins are thin. I don't want to add any additional strain on businesses in DC. Gene and Gene 2.0. Do you think, so I get the storage issue and I get the pickup issue, but you had mentioned a reduction in taking in bottles as a result of this. Is that true? And does that mean, would that hurt your bottom line?
Well, I don't know for Gene. I mean, I have 4 toters that we put our bottles and cans in, and it gets picked up twice a week. If I got rid of those, maybe I could shift some money towards the bottle return portion of it. But I still have a storage issue of it, and like how what I can't figure out is how much of a loss it's going to be. How many bottles and cans either are going to break or not be counted towards that 10 cents return that I might get, because I've never done this before.
And don't forget that a small restaurant only has like a 4% profit margin. And so much of that profit is in beverages. I'm not going to sit here and explain costs to you guys, but it's a big deal to have 3%. In the Restaurant Association thinks it's more of your beverages costs outlaid just sitting there. You're never able to use them.
Right. Yeah, I think that from bar and restaurant perspective, it's the worry about rising costs that the distributors would pass on because they're paying for the system. I think that's where the main concern is. Ben, last comment, and then we can vote or not. But
yeah, I just wanted to mention we've talked a lot about the environmental. I spent a lot of my life in Illinois, which also has a bottle bill. And yeah, there it was often billed as basically a redistribution program, right? Picking up bottles is kind of a job of last resort for, I don't know, for people who are on the street and have the time to do these kinds of things. So it's an open question about the incidence of the extra 10 cents. Is that going to be, customers at the restaurant? Is it going to be the restaurant? We don't know. But yeah, a lot of that money, it goes to, sort of the people on the street who are going to, pick up these bottles. And yeah, so we've talked a lot about the environmental, but it's sort of like social program as well. And I don't know if it's worthy of a whereas, but I just wanted to mention it because we haven't really mentioned that as one of the considerations of why these bills happen.
Thanks, Ben. Okay, so we have a resolution, and there's three options. One option, we vote to send it to the commission tomorrow with a support of the committee. We vote to not recommend it for tomorrow and recommend continued discussion, or we could vote against the resolution totally. So how do people feel?
Yeah, given that I mean, apparently restaurants and bars are exempted as written, and I think the council is aware that distribution questions exist, and if we came in and said right now, 100% support this, it needs to pass it tomorrow, it's not going to pass tomorrow. There's going to be more discussion. So I move to support the bill as written and support future discussion. So yeah, a motion to support the bill as written. The resolution is written.
As written, including the two resolve clauses we wrote during this meeting.
Sure, including the update.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to clarify. So committee member Ben Clemens moved to support resolution as written.
I second.
Committee updates. Committee member Karen Gall seconds. Any last questions, or I'll call the vote? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Great. So motion passes. We will we will send this to the committee or the commission tomorrow, who will also consider it. Gene too. If you're gluttons for punishment and want to sit through this again tomorrow night, I welcome you to join. And I'm sure there'll be spirited discussion at the full commission, and then hopefully continued discussion as the bill kind of makes its way through the process. Great, thanks for being here. Okay, so our second item.
Thanks for hearing us out.
Yes, thanks, Gene. So, and I thought this was going to be a short meeting, guys. I lied to you. Our second item is just a continued discussion on equitable disability parking rights from last week. Nope, last month. And this was, the committee has considered, and the commission has considered a resolution in 2023 kind of about this. And then because no movement had really occurred from the city, Karen Gall brought up a new resolution, and we kind of talked about that for a while. I had suggested that maybe it was secretly two resolutions, one being urging the city to allow people who live in multifamily dwelling units who have disabled parking placards, allowing them to apply for the same reserved disability parking space program that people who live in single family housing can apply for, under the rationale that that's like housing discrimination or discrimination based on housing type. And if they meet all of the other requirements, this shouldn't be something that would prevent people from applying. So that would be one resolution. A second resolution was kind of in there where it was encouraging the city to increase the number of ADA compliant and accessible spaces around the city throughout neighborhoods that are not part of the reserved program. That would be more like anybody with a disabled placard could use these spaces in residential areas. I tried to find some more information about that. a couple years ago, the city had talked about doing a pilot program, and I think had installed a couple parking spaces around town, potentially one on Caroline Street, just south of U Street, like 16th and U, and maybe something in LaDroit Park, but I couldn't find that much documentation about it online. I did find an old ANC 2B resolution about that from 2021. So I think that could potentially be something we bring up. I don't have that resolution prepared. I was just did some research to kind of see if the pilot program existed or had a website or what was going on. And it doesn't really seem like there's a lot of information about that. So especially when something like that happens, I think it is a good opportunity to have a new resolution, right? If like the city is not doing something or it's not obvious to find out about it, you could do a resolution on it. So I think that could be a future one. The other one about the multifamily housing, I want to share a slimmed down version of what we discussed last month, and see what people think about it.
So essentially, you parsed both of them. You parsed it into two. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's what I was that's kind of what I was thinking, Karen, because I think there's enough meat there for both ideas to be separate resolutions, and while they're related, they would be implemented differently. They would be kind of
I'm in agreement with you. I'm in agreement with you. I just wanted to make sure that we were on the same page. So you have the resolution to increase the designated disability parking spaces in multi-family housing areas. So you're going to do that as one.
Yeah.
And then you're going to do the other one, the resolution to eliminate housing discrimination and reserve disability parking spaces as number 2.
Yeah.
Right?
So I'm going to correct those two resolutions, but I think since we had the bulk of the multifamily one already done, you did the groundwork for that one. I pulled out some stuff from there, and then I found, I don't remember if I have it pulled up, but we did a resolution in 2023. This is not correct.
Yeah, I think that was just like one paragraph.
Yeah, so what I wanted to do is specifically call out that we did it in 2023. So what I've done is, whereas ANC 1B passed a resolution urging DDOT to expand access to the residential disability permit parking program to residents residing within multifamily residences in September of 2023. Whereas after 2 years, DDOT has neglected to expand eligibility to residents residing in multifamily residences, continuing a discriminatory regulatory framework that creates a discriminatory 2-tier system where disabled residents' access to reasonable accommodations depends solely on their housing type rather than their documented medical needs. And that was like, I was taking a lot of the language that you wrote to come up with that. And then whereas disabled residents of multifamily housing pay the same fees for disability parking permits and residential parking permits as single-family dwelling residents, yet receive substantially fewer parking accommodations despite having identical or greater mobility challenges. Whereas many multifamily housing buildings in the district, particularly older buildings, lack adequate off-street parking facilities or accessible parking spaces that meet ADA requirements. Whereas the District of Columbia has committed to be an inclusive, accessible city that values the dignity, independence, and full participation of all residents, regardless of disability status or housing type. And then just one resolve clause, but therefore be it resolved that ANC 1B requests, and we could say urges or something, that DDOT expand eligibility for the RDPP program to multifamily dwellings if those dwellings do not provide designated off-street disability parking. And I kind of went with this to show them, DDOT, the city, that like this is something the community's been asking for. It kind of aligns with what the city says they want to be doing by being an inclusive, accessible city. And then just keeping a simple expand it clause. Like it shouldn't be a different, it shouldn't matter where you live. for you to participate in this program, and just keeping it very obvious and simple, that is what the ask is. So they don't get wrapped around like the axle on like implementation or anything like that. It's like we're just asking them to expand it eligibility. So, and then in a later month, kind of when we have that pilot non-reserved parking space in residential areas kind of more together, we could do a similar but targeted in that direction resolution that would be separate, is what I was thinking.
Okay. I sort of feel like Gene a little bit in regards to sort of I I have to put my eyes on it fully to, mesh it with what we presented and to see your breakdown a little bit differently than in this space right now, if that's okay with you. And, we've waited for a minute. Is this something that we could look at as a committee, and then I can sort of give you some additional feedback? Um,
Yeah, so I
because
can
I worked, considerably long on this, and some I do have some input that I might want to add to it, and I don't know if I'm gonna give you everything tonight.
okay, yeah, so I can share this with everyone, and then Karen, if you want to add some stuff, if there's like specific, I know you had more resolve clauses and whereas clauses in the original one. I one of my goals was to keep it like about a page or two. Mine is
Point taken. I'll look I'll look at it for brevity. I did remove my preambles. I know that.
Yep.
I know that but I do believe that I had some language and I don't want it to be redundant so
Okay.
that compared to what you might have come up with. And I did try to parse both of them. Well, I did, but again, mine may have a little bit more length. I'll do my
Okay.
best to try to cull it down a bit.
So I'll share this. I should, I have it as a totally separate document, so I should be able to share it as a editable, track changes, whatever, and we could collaborate on it together or, whatever. I'll send it around. People can contribute to it. And then we can also work on that second one. And then kind of, because I think Karen, what I'm hearing from you is you want it to be a stronger resolution than the 2023 one.
Most definitely, because I believe that that's why it's probably was overlooked. What you put into it is what you get out of it. And I certainly want to make sure that it's very clear that it's necessary that we do not continue to do this because both of them are topics that really need to be taken care of. And I am applauding this ANC for leading the way and getting this done.
Okay, that's great. I'll share this. We can put in some more, beef it up, but it's like beef it up and be brief. Do you know what I mean?
I will be beef. I'll use the beef in the brief on this one.
Beef in the brief. Okay, well, I think, that's everything I had on the agenda. Does anyone else have any thoughts to conclude us with? Jay?
If I can just take a brief moment to mention that DDOT is collecting, I think still collecting comments and surveys for the strategic bikeways plan. If you haven't had a chance to tell the department what you think about biking in the city, including and perhaps especially if you do not feel comfortable riding a bike in the city, please do. There are still ongoing pop-up events occurring throughout the city, and in ward by ward, open house meetings will be starting soon. A couple of them have, I believe, been scheduled already, although I think some of that scheduling may be shifting, so stay tuned. The Ward 1 meeting, I believe, is currently scheduled for early December at St. Stephen's and the Immaculate Conception Church up on Newton and 16th Street. But hopefully I will have enough. If that changes, hopefully I will be able to let folks know before that.
Okay, yeah, thanks for sharing that. I will try to remember to mention that also just at the full ANC meeting tomorrow for folks that are there, and try to like kind of help publicize this. Nicole.
Yeah, so this is partially a question for you, partially just a piece of information for that. So I live in what is the U Street Performance Parking Zone. I very recently noted that they've put up new signage to block out some of that zone for the paid parking, which we knew was going to be part of that. We still haven't gotten a tremendous amount of engagement from DDOT or like better signage, which I know is something we brought up to them in previous meetings. The question, that was the announcement. The question is, have you heard anything else from DDOT about that? Do you know if there's any more planned engagement? Again, I do support this plan. I am overall very unimpressed with the rollout and making it obvious to people in the neighborhood what is going on, because I live here and I see people struggling with the parking signs all the time.
Yeah, so the only real update I have on that is that at last month's ANC meeting, Director Kirschbaum was there and presented, and we peppered her with some questions and some encouragement to engage and be transparent about the data and like help people understand like both the purpose and the outcomes of the project. When I have kind of asked these questions of her or other people, their main response is that like implementation is still underway. Like it's because, you know, things hadn't been fully implemented yet with all the blocks and things that we talked about previously. So it's not a great answer, but I can try to, reach
And this
out
is
and try to push them on it, because it is a big change in the neighborhood, and I think that it would be useful to know if it is
just
good or
I
bad.
know what is happening because of my attendance at all of this ANC stuff. I've heard from neighbors and just anecdotally from people on the street that what is, kind of what is this? This is a little bit confusing. This is a change. I don't think it would take a lot of effort for them to just kind of explain what's going on. I think it's pretty intuitive for people to understand, oh, they're expanding the parking zone for non-residents.
Yeah.
But I think we've given them that feedback before, and that just seems to be something they're determined not to really take to heart. So I understand there's probably very little we as an ANC or you as a commissioner can do. Just wanted to let everyone know that that implementation is now like getting underway, and that the signs are posted for, this is a pay to park zone.
Okay.
And I don't know if folks will hear about that from people in the community asking about it, or if, oh my God, sorry, my cat decided to join the meeting.
I was scared for a second.
Yeah, well, she's Black Cat, October, you never know. And then just whatever our next touch point with DDOT is, kind of asking them for like updates on the state of that. Clearly it's rolling forward, and it doesn't seem like we're like knowing ahead of time when it's hitting new stages. So
Yep. Okay. Heard. I just want to remind everyone that next month should hopefully be a good one. DDOT is coming to present on the specifically U Street bus priority project, but we might be able to ask them about 14th Street and Florida Avenue and, some of the neighboring like surrounding bus priority projects that also impact the neighborhood. So I'm hoping that one will be a good one. So please attend. And if nobody has any other questions, I will adjourn us at 8:15. Thanks, guys. See you next month or tomorrow if you want to come to 2 of these in a row.